The time is now 9 a.m. The date is March 1, 2022. We will now call to order the meeting for the Mayor and City Council for the City of Statesboro. We will have our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Paulette Shavers.
Let us bow. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the people that you've allowed to gather here. And God, as I continually pray every time that I pray, is that you would give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on how to make right decisions for the city of Statesboro. Continue to crown us with your blessings. Continue to crown us with your favor. And Lord, I ask a special prayer right now for Councilwoman Mack and her family as they travel through this most difficult time in the loss of a loved one. Comfort them and give them peace. In your name, Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move down to agenda item 3, recognitions and public presentations. Item 3A is a presentation to our finance department for receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award for the City of Statesboro for FY 2021 budget. And so we are going to call Cindy. Okay. And Cindy, if you will, your team.
Yes, sir. Center here. Okay, Heather, Ramona, let's go to this side. Ramona, let's have you in front of us.
I think she's blocking up the other one.
I think this stuff was this. Yeah, there you go. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm doing it too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And we're going to do the next one.
Okay.
Okay. And we're going to keep this great group up here and give the presentation of the Finance Department for receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Maybe a little bit of flashes. Flashing in the flat. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank the staff and all of the city departments, because without them doing their part, it would be hard for us to get this. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for your support, as well as Mr. City Manager and Assistant City Manager, Jason Willis.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. It's great to have a magnificent team like this. They really keep us in line, ensuring that the city's financial state continues to be strong. So Cindy, thank you to your team. And definitely know the next round of donuts is on Mr. Pink. Absolutely. So, all right. We'll move down to agenda item 4, public comments. Has anyone signed up?
No, Mayor.
Okay, good deal. All right, we'll move down to agenda item 5, consideration of a motion to approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the February 15th work session and council minutes, as well as the February the 17th special call council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 5 has passed. We'll move down to agenda item 6, consideration of a motion to award a contract to Everside Health for an on-site employee health clinic in the amount of $286,123. I do want council to know that Councilmember Riggs did make a request for this to be tabled, so I'll turn it over to council for further discussion as to whether they wish to table it or whether they wish to move forward. And Councilman Riggs is online. So Councilman Riggs, do you want to make a statement in regards to this?
If you'll remember last meeting, I requested, employee, feedback. And, I just haven't had enough time to go through all of it, and, then I'm just asking y'all if you would indulge me for 2 more weeks.
All right, and so I'll turn it over to council, in regards to what council's thought process is as far as whether we table it or take a vote on it today.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Mr. Penny, is there any problem with waiting another 2 weeks?
Okay.
There's not a problem waiting 2 more weeks. However, our window is closing. The current provider will be out of the clinic, and so the services to our employees will be broken. The current provider, by sometime in May, toward the end of May, will be out of the clinic, and so we need to get the new provider or someone in place so that our employees don't see a lapse in service. So 2 more weeks won't, but.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion?
2 weeks, promise. But I appreciate y'all very much.
All right, any further discussion by council?
Yeah, I was just about to say what John, pretty much stated. I don't want to wait a whole another month for this. So 2 weeks I'm fine with 2 weeks, but if it goes out to another month, no, I'm voting next week, next month.
All right, with that being said, is there a motion to table line item 6?
The 15th.
Until the 15th.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 6 has been tabled until the 15th, which will be our second meeting of this month. We'll move down to agenda item 7, public hearing, consideration of a motion to approve application for alcohol license in accordance with the City of Statesboro Alcohol Ordinance Section 6-13. 7A is the Station of Statesboro LLC, doing business as the station, located at 441 South Main Street, Unit 2B, Statesboro, Georgia 30458. License type is restaurant. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Kathy, are there any issues in regards to this matter?
No issues, Mayor.
Okay. Kathy, you hidden in there. I almost lost you for a second. Chief Graham, any issues?
No issues, Mayor.
Okay. Chief Broadhead?
No issues, Mayor.
Okay. And Kane?
No issues, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for the request? All right, seeing that there is none, is there anyone here to speak against the request? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there you go. All right, thank you, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And Statesboro, it is official, your mayor need glasses. John is fading out on me up there. All those in favor?
We all did.
Okay, good deal, good deal. I'm scared of my vision right now. So we move down to agenda item 8. Consideration of a motion to approve an increase the monthly limit for the City of Statesboro purchasing card program with Synovus from $300,000 to $500,000. Mr. Penn.
Mayor, members of the council, we came to you when we first made the switch over from BB&T to Synovus, and we asked you to set the limit for our purchase card at $300,000. And to the audience, it may seem like a lot of money, but we do a lot of business in the course of a month. And so what we found is the $300,000 limit, not that we hit it every month, but it has run into a problem. So therefore, we asked you to increase that amount to $500,000. I think previously it may have been $500,000. And when we came to you, we thought maybe the $300,000 would work. And what we found is we need to set that limit at $500,000. So we do recommend that to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Penn. Any discussion by council? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, we move down to agenda item 9, which is consideration of a motion to adopt the following resolutions, plans, policies, and resolves that they be utilized during the administration of this housing rehabilitation program and authorizes the mayor to execute all enumerated documents. Item 1, budget, project budget resolution. Item 2, financial management resolution. Item 3, housing assistance policy and housing forms, HSG 01 and through HSG 25, housing construction contract award policy, citizen participation plan, residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan, local jobs initiative, section 3 plan, conduct, code of conduct, fair housing policy, procurement standards, and equal opportunity plan. Mr. Penny, if you will, give us some insight on it.
Mayor, members of the council, if you remember when we received our ARPA funds of $12.3 million, we proposed to you, and the council did approve, that we would use $5 million of that, of those funds to initiate a housing rehabilitation program in the city of Statesboro. When we did that, we also recommended that we would contract out with a firm to provide that service for us, and you approved this selection of Insight to provide that service. In order to be able to administer the housing rehabilitation program, we are following CDBG guidelines. However, we needed to get that before you. At the last council meeting, we had a presentation by Chris Hilbert with Insight on how the program would operate. And what we're asking you today is simply to approve the policies and the resolutions to set that program in motion. Doesn't mean that we can't come back to you and amend those policies, but this will set the standard so that when we are presenting to citizens in our community, we can explain to them based on what council has approved as a policy for housing rehabilitation in our community, and we will follow those guidelines. Do want to just emphasize to you that for housing rehabilitation, our initial plan is that we will be dealing with owner-occupied properties only. Before we make a move to tenant-occupied, investor-owned properties, we will come back to the city council just so that you are aware that we're ready to make that move. However, our initial action will be for owner-occupied properties only. And in this plan, which you will see, we will spend up to $50,000 per home to rehabilitate a home. This is for low to moderate income people, meaning 80% of the median family income or below. When we rehabilitate a home, what we're talking about different systems. We're talking about a roofing system. We're talking about HVAC. We're talking about the plumbing system. But when people see those homes, they pretty much should be looking at something that looks very different from what they live in now. Mayor and council, we do recommend the approval of these policies by you today.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. Any discussion by council?
Is there anything in these proposed policies that prevents going for commercial property right away? In other words, do you have to come back to us and say, we're ready to do commercial property? Because I've showed the numbers to 3 people in finance and real estate, and they all said, why would I put money in the stock market when I can do this? I mean, you can.
When you say commercial property, you talking about investor-owned?
Investor-owned property, that's correct. I mean, we've got a 10%, there's a lot of factors in there. I don't want to go into all the details unless we really want to. But for example, a $450 a month property under these guidelines in 7 years, rent can be $877. And then they can sell that and get all their money back. 7 years for an investor is not a very long period of time, especially when you can double your money and quite frankly, even make more money than you put in. So, I mean, I'm really concerned with the way it's set up because it really favors just shoveling money to investors, and then they're gonna be able to pull that money out in a very short period of time. 10% raise on the rent is allowed. So from year 0 at $450, year 7 would be $877. That's double the rent in 7 years. That's not a good policy.
Again, this morning, what I'm really asking you to do is approve the policy for owner-occupied property. Before we would do any investor-owned properties, we would have to come back to the city council. If you don't believe that 7 years is enough, raise it. You can raise it to 10 years, you can raise it to 15 years. That is what I present to council, and again, it's your policy. And if 7 years is not enough for that affordability period, that's council's prerogative to make that change. We based it on a recommendation of how CDBG operates, how the program operates in other communities, but clearly it's council's decision if you want it to be more stringent than that. We also recommended that for investor-owned property based upon the income, because there are some investors that are not wealthy, but if they met a certain income, would determine how much they would have to participate in the cost of rehabilitating that home. What we did recommend to you is that depending upon the income, an investor would have to contribute at least 35% of the cost of rehabilitating a home. That would mean that a $50,000 rehab would cost about $17,500, and they would have to put that money up front before we would even touch that property. But again, today we're not getting ready to go out and do investor-owned property. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to initiate owner-occupied rehabilitations in the city of Statesboro. We'd like to do that this month, and without these policies being in place, we will not be able to talk with our owners in our community about how our rehabilitation program would operate. So Mr. Boyer, no real issue for me based on what you're saying. It's your prerogative if you want those standards to be higher.
Well, I guess really my question is, I understand we want to start working on residential right away, and I have no problem with the way this is set up for owner-occupied properties. I do have a problem with how we have it set up for investor-owned properties. And so if you can tell me now that our policies state that you will come back to us in the future and do investor-owned and not just transition staff-wise, then I'm okay with it.
That's what I'm saying to you. It's in the minutes, and I make that commitment to this council that before we transition to tenant-occupied properties, because when you say commercial, I want to make sure investor-owned property. Before we make that transition, we will come back to this council. But I think it is really important again, and I think Chris made this point. When we go into some neighborhoods, and we recognize that 70% of our properties in Statesboro are tenant-occupied properties. But when we go into some neighborhoods, if we do about 50% of those houses are tenant-occupied. So what we would end up doing is we would end up doing owner-occupied properties. They would look really nice. And then we still would have housing that needs some TLC. But I promise to you, we will not make that transition without coming back to city council for you to say this, you're ready for us to do that.
Well, let me be more specific with my question. Is it written in the policy that you will come back to us?
No.
Because you won't you won't necessarily be here, I won't necessarily be here, the rest of us won't necessarily be here. Policies transcend the people. And so if it's not in the policy, it should be in the policy. That's my point.
Okay. Chris, can we make that, we can make an addition somewhere in a resolution? Yeah, come on up.
My understanding was when you approved the 2.5 million of the first tranche, that was only for owner-occupied properties. So when you reassign your next pot of money, then you can, bring that. That's when we would address the investor owner situation.
That works?
Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
So you've only authorized 2.5 right now just for owner-occupied.
Right.
There's my check and balance.
If it's this summer or something like that, when you identify the next pot of money, then you would say that would be for investor owners.
And it might not.
Right. And we may have some discussion about how much that you might want to put into the investor owner side, and you can make that recommendation at that point.
And again, I don't want to get all down into the weeds, but we have a lot of investor-owned property that are people out of town, that are taking money out of town. They're not investing in this community. And this is going to hand them 2/3 of their rehab money. 7 years, they're going to be able to double the rent and then sell the property. That, to me, is not wise for our community. Now, if we're giving it to our community members or people, who live here who also have investor property, I'm a little more, okay with that. But we have a lot of property that's owned by people who aren't even in this state. And the last thing I want to do is shovel them money to help them fix their property that they've been,
I would suggest that if you want
making
to
money off us
change the terms, you would want to change them now, because we're going to be starting to take applications based on the policies that even though we won't move forward with, doing any housing, we are going to go through an application period, so that we do want to make sure that we're taking those applications based on.
Okay with the terms for owner-occupied.
Yeah, again, we will come back for the tenant piece.
Okay.
And we will make adjustments. What I heard the council member say is, I do think, Chris, we need your professional advice about what other communities have done, if they've gone beyond the 7-year period, affordability period, and if they have used more stringent rent control, because that was a concern that I heard from him.
Yeah.
And we're okay if our rent controls are more stringent, because again, we don't want tenants that are currently able to afford units to get to a point, because what we try to do is keep the rent less than 30% of their income. And so we need to just look at that, and we can make modifications and come back to council. But for today, again, our main emphasis is on the owner-occupied, which council member has no problem with. And we'll come back and look at what modifications we can do for the tenant occupied.
Any further questions by council?
I just want to comment that I'm thrilled that we're finally getting this ready and off the ground to let people know that how the city and this ARPA money is going to help people fix up their houses. So thank you to the staff and to the consultants who were hired and for putting it together. And I appreciate your concern too, Mr. Boyer. So I'm glad that you'll be conscientious that the money's helping the people who really need it.
And the people who live in our community.
Right. Mayor and council, I do believe that our plan is, I think we have a March 23rd date that we're trying to have our first public meeting for citizens so they can learn about the owner-occupied rehabilitations in the city of Statesboro.
Any further discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. Thank you. We'll move down to agenda item 10. Consideration of a motion to approve funding for the development and maintenance of a community garden. Mr. Penn, if you will, give us a little insight on this.
Mayor, members of the council, for some time, in our community, folks have talked about wanting a community garden program where we would find land in the city, probably city-owned land, and allow people to do some gardening, urban gardening. And so staff put together a program, and so today what we're asking is for council's approval to initiate the community garden program. Now that program doesn't come without a cost, so we're, Jason, make sure we are recommending that you fund this community garden program out of our general fund. And I think we're in the neighborhood of about $30,000 that we need to approve in order to be able to initiate that program. And the plan is to initiate that program this spring. So the sooner you approve it, I think that'll be quiet.
All right, any discussion by council?
Are we gonna run this under KS?
Yes, yeah, and parks, and our parks.
Any further discussion by council?
So just to clarify, so it's a collaboration between the city staff, KSBB, Keep Sector Bullet Beautiful, and the Parks Department. We're gonna get some input from county too.
No.
I think we're talking about our parks.
Okay.
And then we will also have some volunteers because you need a master farmer that can help, so folks that don't know how to garden will have some guidance.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion by council? All right, seeing that is none, Councilmember Shavers, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make the motion to approve the funding for the development of the maintenance of the community garden.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, John. All right, we move down to agenda item 11, second reading and consideration of motion to approve ordinance 2022-01, ordinance amending the Statewide Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Section 6-23 to regulate the licensure and operation of package stores. All right, Mr. Penny, any insight, or do you want us to go to Kane?
Go to Canyon.
Kane?
Mayor and Council, this is back before y'all for a second reading today. There were two revisions made from the second reading that was presented on February 15th, and that is that in subsection A, there is a provision in there for a prohibition of package stores within 100 yards of any existing building located upon a college campus as defined under state statute. And also in subsection E, there was under building requirements, there was a square footage minimum that was put in there, but it has been removed. So the 623 has those two revisions, and it's back before y'all for second reading this morning.
Okay. All right, any discussion by council? All right,
Let me just clarify, I didn't hear everything I expected to when you were talking about the buildings in the college. So it's any building, it's not necessarily residential or classroom building?
It's any building on a college campus, is the way y'all directed at the end of the last meeting.
So even like the soccer fields, the buildings there, if there are structures there, that would put them in question as well?
If there is a building, yes, but
Okay.
not the soccer fields itself, obviously. And it would have to be an existing building as well. It couldn't be one that was planned out later. So it's one that's there at the time of the application, at the time of this process. And it's any building on a college campus.
100 yards.
100 yards.
Can't be within 100 yards.
Correct.
Thank you. That was my clarification, that's all I need, thank you.
The only other clarification I have would be from staff, and that would be, should we define when applications will be open? And we can do it in a resolution, doesn't necessarily have to be in the ordinance itself.
I think what we asked for was from the final reading and the effective date of the ordinance. And for taking the application would be 30 days.
30 days.
30 days.
But do you just want to set a specific date so everybody's happy with it?
Yeah, if you approve it today, then it would be April,
April 1st?
maybe no one.
Maybe April 2nd?
Maybe no one did.
And it's got the effective date on the presented section there, and it does have an effective date of April 1st.
Okay.
And what the idea would be is that we would accept applications. We don't want to, we understand with the 500 yards between outlets, there's potential for competition there. And we do want to make it clear that this is not don't camp out on these main streets the night before. The reservation.
It's not a Star Wars premiere?
No, no, and it certainly is not, because it's not, no sort of right vests upon receipt of the application. The location reservation only becomes a right, only vests after approval by council. So I just want to put that out there. Make it very clear that it's not first in time, first in right when it comes to getting in these applications. That 500-yard circle, prohibition circle around the applicant does not become effective until council approves the application or the location reservation for that application. And we will note for council on the order in which applications are received, but it's certainly not going to be, that will be the determining factor. Instead, the determining factors will be those that are already set out in section 613 on the determinations you'll make on any license application.
Okay. Any further discussion by council?
I'm sorry, one more. You just said 500 yards between stores. I thought
We're at 1,000.
Okay.
I misspoke, thank you.
We're 1,000 yards between stores.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, John, is there
Yes,
any
sir.
input, any input that you want to put in on this?
Yes, I would like to add, half of the, revenue that we're gonna generate from liquor sales, of course, half to go to, the programs, the youth programs that you were talking about, and I was, wanting to, mark the other half for public safety and, mental health and, addiction issues.
Okay. All right, and I know that, the social part that's already in there can address mental health and addiction. Is there any other conversation in regards to what Councilman Riggs, stated?
You have a question? Is this substantive? Does it put us off 2 more weeks? If we broaden what's already in there, the 50% going to social services, if we make it 100%, which is what I'm hearing.
I don't see that as being substantive. That's more of a policy statement than a substantive aspect.
Well, does it cover mental health issues, John? If the current statement covers mental health
Yeah,
issues.
it already does.
Then, I mean, we could change the number to 100.
John, are you saying instead of 50% going to social services, you want 100% to go? So that in
No,
this half of it?
Have to, the youth programs that are already, in there now, the 501c nonprofit organization. I would like, the other half of, revenue that we generate to go to public safety, mental health, and addiction.
Okay. So mental health and addiction already falls up under the social piece. So the other part is the question of, public safety. And my comment about public safety, that we already funded. But it's on council, whatever council decides.
I like the idea about, the social service piece, making sure that we're investing back into our community from the revenues of these, package stores. So, I'm in agreement with the mental health portion and the youth. I don't have a problem with, public service either.
Let's do this right here. If we add public safety into it, that's not a substantial change, is it? And at the end of the day, council gets to make the decision.
That's true.
So John, we're gonna add that in, the public safety piece. but we're recognizing that mental health and addiction is already representative in the social space, okay?
Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to amend my motion.
Yeah, I was gonna come back to you. John? Is he frozen? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And so what we're gonna do is ask Councilman Boyd to amend his motion.
Well, before he amends his motion, I'm just question. So when it comes down to that 50%, we decide where certain portions of that 50% goes, right?
Yeah, basically what we're saying is that the revenue from this
Okay.
tax allocation is public health, social services, and youth.
Okay,
Well,
gotcha.
Yeah.
More directly, it is just a
Recommendation,
statement.
policy. Mhm.
It has no binding,
Okay,
Yeah,
we don't have to put 0% towards any of this. It's just
recommendation.
a policy. It's not even a recommendation, it's just a policy statement.
Okay.
Correct.
Councilman, are you going to amend your motion?
Yes, I was trying to, what was the section, Kane, with the 501c3?
It is going to be in subsection G, Councilman Boyle.
G, all right. Yeah, I'll motion to approve with the additions of the words public safety to subsection G.
Okay.
To provide beneficial youth, public safety, and other social services to the city of Statesboro. Will that work?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, may I
Kane?
clarify, Mr. Boyer, are you saying that 100% of it? I mean, that's what John was saying, I understood.
Oh, no, I'm saying 50%. I'm saying the other half of the 5013.
Right, so we're talking about dedicating 100% of the proceeds to all of these things.
Well, the language does say a minimum of 50%.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
again,
ma'am. I believe that 100% of the proceeds of the money we make from selling liquor needs to help the community.
Okay, John, the current language states that a minimum of 50%. Would that suffice, or do you want the councilman to make that note?
Minimum is perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so we're good to go. Do we have a second to Councilman Boyum's motion?
Second.
All right.
Provide beneficial youth, public safety, and other social services to the, will that work, Kane?
It won't, because we can't contract with 501c3s to provide public safety, but what we can do is we can put a minimum of 50% of
How about-
excise tax proceeds be allocated to public safety and social
That
services
works.
contracts.
Okay.
Just rewording it.
Right, just gonna put in those 3 words, public safety, and thereafter be allocated to.
And where you put the words is important.
Okay. All right, so we do have a second, and all those that's in favor?
All right,
All right, Statesboro on this historic day. We will now have packet sessions. We'll move down to agenda item 12, consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2022-06, a resolution reclassifying the GIS administrative position to facilities manager and to reclassify the telecommunications specialist to purchasing coordinator. Mr. Penny.
Mayor, members of the council, we had some staff changes, and in the memo, we clearly identified, like on May 6th, our GIS administrative position was vacated, so we have contracted that service out. And then we had the telecommunications specialist position that was vacated in October. And so through an assessment of our current staffing, we thought those positions could be better utilized to help the organization increase some efficiency. So one is with the GIS administrator. We wanted that person to be, that position to be reclassified, and all these positions are vacant at this time. We wanted that position to be reclassified to a facilities manager. That person would deal with all of our city facilities and will also deal with risk management, which is real critical. The position would be reclassified to a pay grade 20, so that one would increase. And then the telecommunications specialist, which is currently a pay grade 17, that position would be reclassified to a purchasing coordinator, and that position would go to a pay grade 15. We do recommend it to you. As I said, staff has made an assessment, and we believe it's a good move for our organization and will help make us more efficient.
Are you reclassifying 2 human resources positions?
That's the next item.
Okay.
We're
just doing the facilities manager this
Yes.
time. I just heard you mention 3 positions. I only see 2 on the agenda.
Right. There are 2, and then we'll come to the human resources next.
Okay.
All right, any discussion by council? Seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down to agenda item 13, consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2022-07, a resolution to reclassify the senior human resources coordinator and human resources safety coordinator positions in the Department of Human Resources position of human resources generalist. Mr. Penny.
Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, our human resource director had an opportunity to evaluate the 2 positions that we have in HR, and one was classified as a human resources safety coordinator, and one is a senior human resource coordinator. Basically, what we want to do is these 2 positions would be at the same pay grade, and they would basically be able to provide the same level of services, and they would be assigned specific departments that they would handle the human resources function for. And we believe it would be more efficient to have those 2 positions classified at the same level. And so we recommend to you that those positions, instead of having the 2 different ones, we would just have human resources special generalists, and that would be at a pay grade 17. And we recommend that to you for approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Penny. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down to agenda item 14, consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2022-08, a resolution approving an application for funding from the Georgia EPD 9-point source implementation grant, section 319.8 of the Clean Water Act. Mr. Penny, if you'll give us some insight on that.
We've been doing some work with stormwater master plan and all, and today all we're asking you for is permission to submit a grant application to Georgia Environmental Protection Department. And what this would do, this would help us in trying to restore the Little Lots Creek watershed stream. Area's grown up and it's got some issues, and so we would be able to have some funding that would help us in accomplishing the restoration of that stream and that creek. And so we recommend that you authorize us to apply for the grant funds. It does require some matching funds, but we have about $500,000 set aside in our budget in order to in next year's budget. So we recommend that you authorize us to apply for these funds.
Okay. All right, any discussion by council?
I know that makes Ms. Barr happy.
Yes, it does. And I wanted to point out.
That's how I'm looking at it.
Well, I wanted to point out and confirm, this is a collaboration with the Geechee River Keepers, and we're trying to just keep it clean and healthy.
I don't know specifically if we have collaborated with them to this point on this, but they're aware of the work that we're doing along the Little Lots Creek watershed. So I feel confident that they would be in support of this.
Right, I mean, I've heard that they are, and I'm just kind of holding them up and bring it on the city that we work with the other. Everybody can't know everything. We have to work together with other experts. And so I'm really pleased that the city is working with other folks who are focused on keeping our water as clean and healthy as possible. So.
Yes, ma'am. And in development of the documents that are that lead to the grant application, we formed the stakeholders meeting, stakeholders committee, and held meetings. And the Geechee River people was part of that
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to hold up. Thank you, Jason.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Penny.
All right. Any further discussion by council? Seeing that there is no further discussion by council, Ms. Barr, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, please. Move for adopt.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, we'll move down to agenda item 15, which is consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2022-09, a resolution approving grant application for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs Employment Initiative Program. Mr. Penny.
Mayor and council, if you remember on February 17th, the council approved extension of utilities out to the industrial park for Aspen Air Jail. And as a part of that, we have an opportunity to receive some funding from DCA to assist with the extension of infrastructure. The grant application is for $750,000. And what we are seeking today is your authorization to apply for those funds. As these are some federal funds, we have to make sure that we stay right in line and go through the right procurement processes. So this is just the beginning of that process. And so we do recommend that we apply for these funds. Right now, with the $500,000 that we're going to put in, and with the $750,000 from them, that would provide us $1.2 million in order to be able to extend water and sewer into the industrial park, and we do recommend it to you.
Any discussion by council?
So this is just a federal pot of money that's available that we can ask for, and it's kind of under the guise of it's gonna bring new jobs to Bullock County and Statesboro. So that's why. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion by council? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Thank
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I know, John got that delay with us. All right, we move down to agenda item 16, which is consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2022-10, a resolution to put into effect a 6 months moratorium on issuance of variances from Article 15 of Appendix A of the Statesboro Code of Ordinances. Mr. Penny.
Mayor, members of the council, you authorized us at the end of the last year, you approved a contract to redo the subdivision ordinance and the sign ordinance. And since that time, we've had a number of variances, sign variances that have come before the council. You issued a moratorium for freestanding signs back in, I think, November. And you did a 6-month moratorium. And Mayor and Council, what we're asking you today is to do a 6-month moratorium on all variants for signs. We need to allow our staff and our consultant the opportunity to do the work for revising our sign ordinance. I don't know that it can be done in a 6-month period, but we would come back to you. And hopefully, once the sign ordinance is redone and the subdivision ordinance is redone, you won't have the number of variances that come before you at your regular meetings. But today, we're just simply asking that you would put the moratorium in place for all sign variances until we can get our ordinances redone. But this is a 6-month recommendation.
Any discussion by council?
So it's 6 months or longer.
Yeah, what would happen, you do it at 6-month intervals, and we'd have to come back to you. Because the first one, the first one that we put in place, would this replace the one?
It would, this would supersede that one from November 16th, which was just as the freestanding. So now this will be a full moratorium on all Article 15 sign variances for 6 months beginning today. And if we need to extend it, if TSW requires more time, we'll bring an additional moratorium before y'all.
This is giving staff 6 months to redo the sign ordinance.
At the start.
To start. Okay.
So it doesn't stop people putting up signs, it's just when they want to do it different from the guidelines in place, so it stops
as long-
variances.
Yes, as long as they follow the current guidelines, there's not an issue. It's when they want to do something outside of the current guidelines, this is what that would impact.
My last question, and this is for staff, so it could take longer than 6 months, you saying to start it?
Yeah, it could take longer than that. And the reason I say that is we will do our work. However, the sign ordinance and the subdivision ordinance requires input from our citizens. So we just can't write an ordinance, bring it in and put it before you for adoption. The process requires stakeholders being involved in that process. And I will tell you that I've been involved with sign ordinance rewrites before, and that process has taken anywhere from a year to 2 years. We hope that's not the case in Statesboro. But the 6 months would at least give us a little bit of breathing room, and we'll come back to you if we're not done in 6 months.
Okay. Any further discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Paul?
Yeah,
All right, all right, thank you. All right, we'll move down to agenda item 17, consideration of a motion to approve an agreement with Georgia Power Company Lighting Services in the amount of $224,900 for the Blue Mile Streetscape Improvements Project. Is there any discussion, Mr. Finch?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, this is a good item to bring to you as we're doing the work on the Blue Mile. The university, Georgia Southern, wants to participate in the improvement of the streetscape. And so all this does is they've agreed to pay for the poles. They will be decorative poles so we can hang banners and all. And in this case, they would commit $170,300 in order to, it's like 41 poles that would be replaced once the work is done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we recommend approval for that, sir.
Okay. All right, any discussion by council? Seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down to agenda item 18, consideration of a motion to amend award of contract to National Auto Fleet Group in the amount of $60,000 for the purchase of a MAC 30 dump trailer for the Public Utilities Department per updated Sourcewell contract pricing. Mr. Bennett.
Mayor and council, we brought before you a sludge trailer some months ago, and as everything we've been dealing with, we've been buying with supply chain issues. As soon as we put our order in, we find that there's been a price increase. And so in this case, the vendor experienced a price increase, and so the impact to us is about $4,682, and so we're bringing it back to you for you to and asking you to approve that increased cost. The vendor is going to have to eat about $700 as a result of that increase, but we do recommend the approval of the increased cost to get that trailer for water and sewer.
Okay. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Second.
All right. All right, we move down to agenda item 19, other business from city council. Is there any other business from city council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to highlight the fact that in conjunction with International Women's Day, there's an international bill. The local Habitat is participating. Marcus, you want to just announce the details? It's this Saturday.
Yes, Habitat for Humanity is hosting a women build. It's a volunteer opportunity to help construct two of our houses at 117 and 119 Green Street. So this is kind of a great thing because the last time we had a women's bill, we were having to do things virtually. So we'd like for you all to come out. It's from 8:30 in the morning until 12, and come out and be prepared to do a little bit of light construction work.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Any further announcements from council? All right, we'll go down to agenda item 20, city manager comments.
Mayor and members of council, I wanted to just call you to your attention, in your FYI packet, there was a financial audit finding memo, and we are always so proud of our finance department. They received awards and we presented the audit to you last month. But when we sent our audit forward, we had a finding from DCA. And so we wanted to call that to your attention, but it wasn't anything that Ms. Cindy or her crew did wrong. If you remember, we had some funds that the county reimbursed us for purchasing our radios. We had purchased it out of our general fund, and it was just shy of $500,000 that came back to the city. And when they came back to the city, we received them into the general fund. And according to SPOS funds, you can't do that. So we have to reassign that to SPOS. And so that was the finding. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that, and we're making that correction. Also, just want to mention to you that the vaccine clinic, we had a vaccine clinic this past weekend. We had 32 people that were vaccinated. We gave out 25 cards. I think we have about 37 more cards to give out. We will work with the Department of Public Health to see if we can schedule another vaccination clinic and until we give those cards completely out. I do want to say we did have someone that was not happy with the fact that we were doing vaccination clinics. And so we had 2 signs that were in front of City Hall announcing our clinic. And so someone appropriated our signs. And we're on Facebook Live, so if they have our signs, we'd like for them to bring them back because we need to reuse them again. Just want to make you aware of that. I also wanted to announce that we had applied for some funding through Governor Kemp's water and sewer infrastructure program for the creek on the Blue Mile. I think we applied for about $6 million. We were not successful in receiving that grant, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. There's some other opportunities, but the projects that were funded were not so much stormwater, they were more water infrastructure, drinking water, and wastewater. And so, make you aware of that. And that's it, Mayor. We do have folks from the Business Innovation Group here for our next session.
All right, thank you, Mr. Penny. At this time, we will need to go into a recess because we have a scheduled 10 a.m. Work session. Is there a motion for us to enter into recess? Is there a second? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, we stand in recess until 10 a.m. work session. Okay. You ready? All right. All right, we'll move down to agenda item 21, public comments. Excuse me. Is there a motion to enter back into the regular session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will continue with our regularly scheduled agenda. Item 21, public comments. Are there any public comments at this moment? Seeing that there is no public comments, we will like to add an item to the agenda, and that's to remove from the table the planning and design for the Creek project for approval in this meeting. Is there a motion to remove the Creek planning and design project from the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next item that we will have is there a motion to approve the planning and design of the Creek project in the amount of $2.65 million? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 22, is the consideration of a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, real estate, and/or potential litigation in accordance with OCGA 50-14-3D. Is there a motion, is there a need for executive session? Okay, all right, council. All right, seeing that there is none, we'll move down to agenda item. Hold on, go ahead, Mr. Penn.
Yeah, I failed to make an announcement. This is real important, and I know Mr. Riggs will like this. This Friday, we are celebrating Employee Appreciation Day. And we are providing food trucks to our employees from like 11 o'clock to 1:30. And so I just wanted to make sure that the mayor and council are invited to participate. We have purchased gifts for all our city employees that they will receive. I think you have one. And we're presenting them with, in each one, I think they're masks and lifesavers, because our employees are lifesavers. And I just want to just simply say, we have a great group of employees, and without that human capital, we couldn't make this city the great city that it is. And so I just wanted to do that, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Yeah, John.
That, 11 to 1:30 Friday, where?
We'll be down at the municipal building. And Mr. Riggs, I'll make sure that each one of you receive an email, because you can place your order for your meal in advance of coming. And so we'll have it ready for you when you get there. So we'll send that out to you, but it's down at the municipal court building where we'll have the 2 food trucks. Okay.
Oh, okay, right next to the fire department.
Right.
Can I drive one of the fire trucks?
No.
Go ahead, John.
Sure, I cover that. We have talked about this before.
All right. And at this point, we'll move down to agenda item 23. Consideration of a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you guys so much.